welcome to another guide. This one's a little bit different in the sense that I'm not going to be directing you to arena guides, but instead look at what the hell happened in the recent patch. Now, a whole load of stuff has arrived, like the new talent trees, for instance. Now, these are a pain in the ass to set up because you've got 5 rows currently, and a 6th will be unlocked when you hit level 90, and in each row there's 3 choices. Now, this is where it's annoying. You can only choose one goddamn thing per row, which is painful because I want so many things. Now, this is a view of my talent tree, and yours might differ, depends on what you feel like you might take, but a new choice has actually come out, which is a revival of Shotgun. Now, I really hope this dies out when MOP actually hits, because it's just stupid how much damage I can push out with little to no effort, so let me show you.
This is it.
And before you get in the huff and exclaim, he's wearing PvP gear. No, he's in full PvP gear. And Paladins are just pretty fucking dumb right now. Let me show you why we can do this currently. The first row doesn't really matter, that's just speed buff. The second row is a Hodge called Fist of Justice on a 30-second cooldown. The third row is Sacred Shield, and the fourth row is double bop, double salvation, double sacrifice, and double freedom. Now, the most important one is the 5th row. This is the one that actually makes a shotgun. Whenever you pop wings, your holy shock's on a 50% reduced cooldown, which is every 3 seconds you can pull out 30,000, maybe 35,000 on somebody, which is just ridiculous. Now again, this isn't actually level 90, so this is definitely subject to change, and currently we only have about 140 to 150,000 health, so me doing 30 to 60,000 shatters are pretty heavy. Right, enough of that. On to the major changes that have happened. Let's start with talents. Everything's gotten fucked. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I just mean that we had 41 points before, and now we have, well, 5, so, you know, a lot has actually changed. We're currently in a state where we're pretty overpowered, actually, for once in our life. I'd say we're currently the best healer, but that might change when level 90 hits. But, I mean, we've got so many defensive and offensive cooldowns. We're able to withstand and dish out so much pressure that is downright ludicrous. And we've got double freedom and bop as well as sacrifice, so that really does solve a major issue with us sitting in CC. One of the good things about the double sack, bop freedoms, and whatnot is that they have separate cooldowns. We basically have 2 bops now on 2 independent cooldowns. So you spend one, and then a minute later spends another one. The first one's going to be at a 4-minute cooldown. Having 2 sacrifices on independent cooldowns solves the biggest problem Paladins have had to deal with, you know, being CC. Ever since we lost our Undispellable Divine Sacrifice in Season 9, we've been CC just so easily. This coupled with us having 0 HOTS and absorbs, you know, outside of our mastery, was just horrible. You know, maybe this expansion isn't so bad. But let me go over the reason why I think we'll be the top healer. I mean, it's just the sheer amount of cooldowns we have, which evidently means we have so many cooldowns. I mean, who thought this up? Who decided to give us so many cooldowns that are so strong? I'm not complaining, I'm just asking. Let's start by going over what happened to these cooldowns, because some of them are actually pretty different, and let's go over the ones that we've gotten so far. Why don't we start with Divine Protection? This ability changed pretty heavily. First of all, we lost the sprint in it, which was called Speed of Light. This is now a separate ability and the first row of our talent tree. Second of all, it's now 40% magical damage, with the glyph giving us 20% magical damage and 20% physical damage. So this is a huge buff. And we have reduced damage against everything right now. We no longer have to glyph and hope to meet spellcasters and then dread the day we meet melees. We can actually have the best of both worlds now. Next up is Divine Favor. This ability didn't change, the cooldown didn't change, nothing really happened with it, so same old, same old. Now, this one's a little bit fun. We actually completely lost Aura Mastery, so to speak. Now, Aura Mastery didn't go out of the game, so to speak. It's just now called Devotion Aura. And it also now comes with a nifty little 20% magic damage reduction. So that and the 3-minute cooldown means it's gotten a little bit stronger and also a little bit weaker. We can only free cast once every 3 minutes now. A little bit sad, but it's still a massive change. On to Avenging. Now, this one changed pretty heavily, actually. The cooldown is no longer 2 minutes, it's now 3 minutes, and this means that it fits together with a Divine Favor. Doesn't really matter much, but anyway, the biggest change for me is the fucking 4 wings. I love this change so much. It's only aesthetic, it's a minor blip, and it doesn't matter, but I just thought I'd mention it. Now, Bubble didn't really change either. Nothing really happened. It's the exact same as in Cataclysm, which is also the same for the Guardian. Didn't really do anything. It's still the same. Why don't I save us all some time and say that these 3 abilities didn't change either. They're exact same, but we now have 2 of them. On separate cooldowns, of course. Now, this next ability is fucking amazing. It's like having, I don't know how to describe it. It's pretty fucking amazing. This is essentially just what reworks Sealatry. Whenever you do a Holy Shock or a Flash of Light or Divine Light on a beacon, whatever you do that can gain Holy Power, as in, you know, Crusader Strike or Holy Shock, you will get free Holy Power. And also, this doesn't cost anything to use. You can use it straight off the bat, and it gives you 30% increased healing. It's just a crazy cooldown. Next ability is Speed of Light. This used to be built into our Divine Protection, but now it's in our first talent tier. Now this is now 8 seconds, and it's pretty amazing actually. Our old one was 4 seconds, and same cooldown just about. One of the changes that I actually couldn't fit into the other image with all the cooldowns is we have Sacred Shield again. It's a little bit different in the sense that you don't get increased crit on Flash of Light, and it no longer procs when you take damage, it's just always active. It's pretty amazing. This doesn't fit well with the other one since it's not classified as a cooldown, being only 6 seconds CT, but we have an actual shield now, like a shield that we can use while in CC. Right, now onto something a little bit weirder. We have no auras currently, and we have, well, we do have seals, but they're pretty much what I describe as auras. We've got no duration and no real buff, they're just kind of there on our aura bars. This also shows what I meant earlier with 2 different bops and sacrifices. You can see the little 2 number, and when it's used, it basically just shows the 1 cooldown. They've done something amazing this patch. They've already added PvP power and PvP resilience. If you don't know what this is, it's fairly simple. PvP resilience is basically the same as before, but PvP power is essentially where you do more healing in a PvP setting, as in Nagran Arena as opposed to Stormwind City, and you do more damage against players and their pets. What they've done this patch as well is they've changed PvP items to look a lot more like PvE items, so it doesn't feel like you're missing anything by wearing a full PvP set. My shoulders, which had Resilience and Spirit before only, now has Resilience, Spirit, and Mastery, so I can reforce the Mastery to crit and not lose any Spirit at all. Now before, I had to choose crit over Spirit. Now some combos crit was better, some combos Spirit was better, but overall, going for one of them just meant that I lost so much of the other stat. It was dangerous. Now this doesn't happen so much anymore. It's still prevalent though. What they've added this patch as well is that we have 5 Holy Power maximum now instead of the old 3. That means that we can now spend a free from Word of Glory and still have 2 Holy Power left. Now another thing to notice is that they've actually removed Daybreak, and they've changed the icons of the 2 on the little built-in power aura. So Daybreak is no longer active, and Daybreak's former icon is now Infusion of Light's new icon. It's pretty complicated, and they confused the hell out of me the first time I tried it. Another small, or I wouldn't really say small, another change is that we no longer have relics. So the old ones are pretty much worthless, and they've also removed head enchants for some reason. Not the active ones, but the ones you've had in your bags. So you can pretty much just sell both. Now, what MOP's done with talents is a little bit different. They've made sure that you can choose talents based on your preferences, and not based on some cookie-cutter build. Like before, it was either Rule of Law or Improved Hodge, but now it's really, really different. It's all up to how you want to spec yourself. Now, this is how I chose to spec in Glyph. Now, you have 5 rows in total, as I talked about before. Now, these 5 rows, I've chosen Speed of Light, Repentance, Sacred Shield, Clemency, and Holy Avenger. The first row is pretty much all talents for increased movement speed, and there are some pretty good ones. For instance, I chose Speed of Light, which was our old talent that built in with Divine Protection, but is now a separate ability. There are 2 pretty solid options outside of this one. There's Long Arm of the Law, which increases your speed by 45% whenever you do a successful Judgment. This means that if you do Judgment on cooldown, Judgment's cooldown in 6 seconds by the way, then every 3 seconds you'll be running at nearly 50% movement speed. The second talent in this row is called Pursuit of Justice. This is our old red talent that now gives us a flat 15% increased movement speed, and an extra 5% per holy power, up to 30% in total. The second row is a little bit more difficult. There's 3 abilities that I want all at the same time, but let's start off with Fist of Justice. Now, this is a talent on a 30-second CD that replaces the old Improved Hammer of Justice, just with an extra 10-second CD reduction. And then there's Repentance. I mean, who'd have thought we would ever get an actual casted CC? This Repentance functions just like the old Repentance, except that it has a 15-second CD now with a 1.5-second cast time. This basically means that we now have Sheep, just on a 15-second CD. We are literally an actual offensive healer now. Next one's called Burden of Guilt. Now this is a hard talent to not choose. Basically gives you a snare whenever you judgment somebody for 12 seconds. This means that you can keep people snared for as long as you want. Think like a Shaman's Frosha, for example. The next tier is a little bit easier to choose from. This basically has Selfless Healer, which means that every single time you judgment, you get a 35% decreased cast time and 35% increased healing done on Flash of Light. This stacks up to 3 times, which means you get 100% increased healing and 100% decreased cast time, which is basically an instant Flash of Light. While this does sound inviting, you have to remember that it's only every 18 seconds. This is a long, long time. And this is even if you can actually get free consecutive judgments off. Granted, you're not being CC'd or you're not being pressured. This next talent is a little bit difficult to explain, but it's somewhat like adding a Riptide to our Word of Glory. So basically, you have Word of Glory currently, but if you pick this talent, you have Eternal Flame. What Eternal Flame does is give a heal equivalent to what Word of Glory does, and then give another heal for about 4 to 5,000 every 2.5 seconds for 31 straight seconds. And it's worth noting that the Hot is actually able to crit. This next ability is a little bit difficult to understand, because Sacred Shield itself lasts for 31 seconds, but the buff it gives starts absorbing immediately, which also lasts for 6 seconds, refreshing every 6 seconds as long as Sacred Shield is active. now we come to some easier talents at least. This next ability is called Hand of Purity. Now think of this like a Hand of Sacrifice, just instead of reducing damage in total, it reduces 70% of all dot damage. So if you're up against an LSD 2.0 and you're getting farmed, this might be a good, good talent to take. It's also worth noting it has only 30-second cooldown. This next one's a little bit hard to understand. Whenever you spend Holy Power with Divine Protection, Divine Shield, and Land Hands on cooldown, the cooldown is reduced on those respective abilities by 1% per Holy Power spent. Now next up is Clemency, and the sheer strength of this alone is enough to outweigh the other talents. Essentially, you can bop somebody, the opponents can switch and you can bop him too. You can freedom yourself twice even if it gets dispelled. You can sack twice even if you can tell you're clearly going to be CC'd after they dispel the first sack. Stuff like this. Which means that, the pros outweigh the cons, clearly. And that brings us to the last tier. Now this is actually pretty hard to choose, but I found it fairly simple when I actually realized what Holy Avenger does. It's basically a Sealer tree that's been reworked to fit for every single class. Now Sealer tree used to require free Holy Power. This one doesn't. You can just use it whenever you want, do one Holy Shock, and suddenly you have free Holy Power. This also works if you do a Flashlight on a Beacon or a Divine Light for that matter, or Crusader Strike a Totem, or Holy Shock somebody. You still get the free Holy Power. If you already have free Holy Power and you use this, you just get capped at 5 Holy Power. Now, this next talent is called Sanctified Wrap. This basically reduces the cooldown of Holy Shock by 50% whenever Wings is active. Now, this means that if you pop Wings, you can be a Shocking it again, doing amazing damage currently, but I'm 100% sure that with level 90 scaling, this is going to be an obsolete talent as opposed to the other cooldown, Holy Avenger. Now, the last talent that I'll be talking about is what used to be Red's Mastery in Season 9, which was changed to a talent in Season 10 and 11 called Divine Purpose, which is now simply just a talent that we can use as any spec. It's basically causing every single ability that costs Holy Power to have a 25% chance to cause Divine Purpose. This means that your next Holy Power ability is going to consume no Holy Power, and, it's going to act as if free Holy Power is actually present and consume no current Holy Power. Now, let's talk about something more fun. Glyphs. Now, I was joking, of course, this isn't fun at all. So, my glyphs are the following: Divine Protection, Turn Evil, and Rebuke. The minor ones are Contemplation, Winged Vengeance, and Fire from the Heavens. The minor ones don't matter since, they're mostly just aesthetic. We used to have 50% reduced mana cost on Kings and Might, but that's not there anymore, so whatever you want to choose for minors is completely up to you. The major ones, in my opinion, only have 2 alternatives. Beacon of Light, which reduces the global, completely removes the global on Beacon, or Blizzard Life, which gives you 50% chance to gain a Holy Power whenever you're stunned, feared, or mobilized. But this is a 20-second cooldown, so not really something that I wanted to choose. Now, let me go over my glyphs quickly. There's Glyph of Divine Protection, which means that Divine Protection now does 20% decreased physical and magical damage. Then there's Turn Evil, which is 100% reduced cast time, but 8-second increased cooldown. And then there's Rebuke, which is 5% increased cooldown, but a 2-second increased lockout. Some small stuff that I couldn't really fit into this video, but I'd still like to add. Humans are going to be the best race in MOP, no doubt. They're going to have the same PvP trinket, but the PvP trinkets that they currently have, as in the Badges of Dominance and Insignias of Dominance, are going to have Intellect on them. So pretty much, you can have 2 Intellect trinkets, which is a huge advantage. And currently, I can't really tell you what reforging is going to be like, either now or in MOP. I haven't really played the beta too much. The only thing I've got is a level 85 Paladin, with like 10 quests done. I mean, I gave up pretty quickly, but the point is, reforging should still be the same as it was in Kata. I mean, nothing has really changed, but there's no real arenas to test it out in, so, whatever you want to go with is fine. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I certainly hope I helped. If you have any questions, you know where to find me.